Hello, I'm back from holiday, so no need to fill your time with boring drama like Game of Thrones and all that kind of crap you've been watching. Now it's time for the real drama to begin. Piacenza in Serie A. Hello, welcome back. I'm excited to get going. I've been on holiday, and to be honest, all I've been thinking about is getting back and playing FM, getting into Serie A. Well, I've actually been playing FM while I've been on holiday, getting through pre-season and stuff, but I've been waiting to get back to play this first game of the season. It's not going to happen immediately. My wife always likes to tell me that I give her a timeline of events. Whenever she asks anything, she's like, I don't need this timeline of events. Like, I go into too much detail, basically. But sometimes I think you have to go into detail to understand the story properly. So, in this case, what I've done, instead of making an hour-long film or something ridiculous like that, I've decided to split this first episode into two parts, because there's so much to get through in terms of what we've done in pre-season, what's going to happen with the tactic, what players we've signed, what players have left, how the finances are doing. There's a lot to get through, basically. So I think that in order to get through all of that, it makes sense to split this into two parts. So this is part one, and part one is also accompanied by a blog post, which link will be in the description. And this is all about the tactics, this is all about the players we've signed, and it's all about the philosophy for the upcoming season. So then part two will be the first game of the season against Spal. So here we are, season 3 of my Piacenza save, and we're in Serie A. I had expected a little bit more of a challenge. It's been a surprisingly short road, really. After back-to-back promotions, we did it with relative ease, really, and quite a degree of shock as well. Serie A, we romped it. Serie B, we did really, really well, and we finished second, with a team that was probably not quite as good as that second place suggests. Serie A, here's the lay of the land. This is the season preview for Serie A. Look at all these big boys we've got. Juventus, Milan, Napoli, Inter, Roma, Lazio, Torino, Atalanta, I don't know why I skipped Fiorentina. All of them, decent, big Italian teams that we all know about. Some of the smaller ones down here as well, but then look who's bottom there. Look who's predicted to finish 20th, 500 to 1 to win the league. That's pretty crazy, isn't it? But it should be a good season, Serie A. I mean, I think we're definitely going to get some decent stadium visits out of this, aren't we? I mean, look at these teams. Imagine going to Milan, that's going to be a good stadium visit. Rome is going to be a good stadium visit, I wouldn't mind visiting a lot of them, so that's going to be fun, at least. As far as the actual games go, that's another matter. I don't know if fun is going to be the way to describe it. So our first game is actually against Spal. Spal are predicted to finish 18th if you go off this season preview. So actually, this is a kind of game that we really should be looking to win. I know it's very early on. It's the first game in the season, but if we're going to stay up, then games like this could be very important. The games against the teams that are expected to be in and around those bottom spots with us, basically. Spal. I don't know what Spal is. I don't know where Spal is. I don't know what it means, what it stands for. We'll look at that in the next film just before we play them. But yeah, it's a game that we need to win, basically. Now, although the season preview isn't looking particularly good, if you take it on face value there, the same thing happened last season. We were predicted to finish last, or round about last, to get relegated last season as well, and we ended up finishing second. So anything can happen. Now, I'm not saying we're going to finish second this season. Far from it. We are almost certainly not going to finish second. Well, definitely not going to finish second this season. But I think we can avoid relegation. I really do. We've done it before. Why can't we do it again? Okay, I know that Serie A is a much higher level than Serie B or Serie A, but I've got a kind of a semi-plan, sort of. Semi-plan is probably the best way to describe it, because it is at best flaccid. But here's what I reckon, right? Now, bear with me here a little bit. So, you have to ask the question, in terms of real football and FM football, how important is your tactic? What role does your tactic play? So, more importantly, kind of, what is the value of a good tactic used in conjunction with supposed less able players? Can it hold its own? So my tactic is proven, it's done well, it's been really good in the past in Serie A and Serie B. And yes, I know it's not as good quality as Serie A, but the tactic itself has been working, okay? Against the odds. Why is that? So these season previews are based on an assessment of our team comparatively against other teams in the league. That assessment is formulated by averaging the attributes of all of the players in Serie A. So there's quite a large disparity between the best teams in Serie A and the worst teams in Serie A. So, and also, you've got players like in my team, for example, we've got some very young players coming through whose attributes might not quite be as good as they can be. They show very high potential, so this could be a breakthrough season for them, and the attributes don't really tell the whole story. I am a firm believer that the attributes do not tell the whole story, and Gambato is a perfect example of that last season. Yes, he had a few decent attributes, but he performed way above what his attributes would suggest he should be doing. So I'm not sure how seriously I take that prediction, but then I would say that, wouldn't I? Anyway, I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself. Let's just start off by looking at the last tactic used in Serie B, which was against Frosinone, last game against Frosinone, and let's see how that compares and kind of influences the one that we're going to be using in Serie A. First off, apologies for the quality of this. This is a screen grab from the last film, because I couldn't go back and do it all in FM, so it's all kind of a little bit cobbled together. But the first thing to note, and you can probably tell, is that despite being a Stoke fan, I like to play attacking football. This formation is designed to attack, essentially. The mentality is attacking, and it's designed to push forward and pressure the opposition, press and win the ball back when we don't have it, and then kind of overload, ideally using the wing backs when we do. The tactic has worked in part because over the past we've assumed that we are better or equal to all of the teams that we've played. So in Serie A and Serie B, and attack has for us been the best form of defence. Now, the opposite can be said of Serie A. There's a very good chance that we are going to be weaker than almost, if not all, of the teams that we play in Serie A. So you would, according to that, perhaps you would theorise that maybe what we should do is go for a more balanced or even kind of a more cautious mentality, because we don't want these teams to score against us. Well, that's not entirely how I think about it. So in my mind, the way that this works is that I believe there's a lot to be said about the familiarity with the tactic, and I feel like it would be stupid to change this too drastically. It's been working, and I know it's been working in a lower division, but it has been working so far. Even when I've made small changes to mentality, even when I've gone balanced or I've gone cautious in the past, that has ended up being detrimental. It has had a noticeable impact on the way that the team performs. This tactic works because it's aggressive. I think if you take that positivity away, it doesn't perform as well, and a certain amount of that is that it's also really well suited to the personnel that I deploy in each position, and vice versa, the personnel are suited to an attacking mentality. This final tactic of Serie B, there are some important things to note. Number one is that in the starting 11 there were 3 loan players, okay? 2 of which have been with us for 2 seasons. As well as that, there were 4 older players who were approaching 30 or over 30. And then there were 4 youngsters aged between 19 and 22. I'm calling youngsters between 19 and 22 here. Now, why is that important? Let's just break it down. So the first point is the loanees. So 3 of our players were loanees in that squad. Now, obviously, when someone's on loan, they're going to end up leaving. And what's that going to do? It's going to leave a hole in the team. We don't have great depth there, so we're going to lose that depth, and we're going to lose the quality of the player in that position. So we need to replace them, basically. The second thing is this age issue. So having a great deal of older players and younger players in the team might mean that, for example, the younger players don't have quite as much experience, and the older players maybe start to sort of lag a little bit, may lose some pace and fitness, and potentially, the older players might decide they want to move to China or retire or something like that. So it's not ideal. But let's just deal with the second issue first, if you like, because I'm a dickhead. So the second issue being the player age thing. So it doesn't bother me so much, and that's because this season what I'm thinking about doing, and I should do it all the time really, is playing people based on merit. So if you play well, you will get a place in the squad. It doesn't a place in the starting 11. It doesn't matter what age you are. If you can perform, and if you can show that you can perform, you will get a place in the team. So you're only as good as your last performance, basically. So if you perform, you can play. Simple. It's that simple. So with that in mind, young or old, it shouldn't matter. Now the first point, which I'm dealing with second, was the loanees issue. So this did concern me at the end of Serie B, mostly because we've relied very heavily on loan players throughout the last 2 seasons, and not only have these players been, well, in most cases our best players, and most consistent players, but they've also gelled with the wider team and been responsible for creating a kind of a solid backbone and a team cohesion, which I think is pretty important to making that tactic work, as I explained earlier. So my concern is that losing these loanees could have a detrimental effect on the tactic and on the squad, and on the, as a result, on results and performances. Sure, I could track down another attacking midfielder and replace Manolo Portanova with a decent attacking midfielder with similar attributes, but is that still going to work in the same way? And I was just a little bit wary of doing that. I don't know. It's hard to know how much of an impact that does actually have. What I do know is that I can't take the risk of upsetting that equilibrium in Serie A if I'm going to stay up. Also, those players have performed for me match after match after match, and so, I would like to reward them with the opportunity. They deserve a shot in Serie A. So if they want to sign, come and play in Serie A. And I managed to get a couple of them. So Portanova, who I just mentioned before, I managed to pick up Portanova for 1.3 million? 1.9 million. It's valued at 1.3 million here, which is good, isn't it? A good start. But yeah, pause the screen at any point if you want to have a look at these players in more detail. But I'll just fly through them for now. So we got Portanova. We also got, where is he? Michele Troiani, the right wing back, who is a beast. He doesn't look like it here. Again, it's that thing about attributes, in terms of a Serie A quality player, none of the 3 that I'm about to tell you are actually technically probably not Serie A quality players in terms of their attributes, but the way they've been performing for me, I'm kind of hopeful that they can do well. The other one is Marco Pompetti. So that was a good start. Those 3 players we signed very quickly, and they come straight into the squad. They know everybody already. I know what to expect from them. Brilliant. I'm happy with that. Now, of course, I understand you might say I've been a little bit too cautious here, that maybe I should have looked to acquire players with a little bit more experience in Serie A, maybe look to upgrade from these players a little bit using the cash that I had available. I don't know, they've had a proven track record for us over the past few seasons, and as I said previously, number 1, I think they deserve a chance in Serie A. Number 2, I only had 5 million, which is only going to go so far, really, and also, I'm never going to afford the type of wages that a Serie A standard player would require. And then thirdly, I didn't want to fuck with the team cohesion or the tactic, and I know that these players fit in the tactic and work well, so that was my kind of reasoning behind it. Am I trying to convince me or you? I don't know at this point. Now, there's another name you might recognise here, Marco Blieve. Do you remember Blieve from Serie A? It turns out that we managed to grab him. He's a very, very good goalkeeper. He's better than Lagamarcini, who was our goalkeeper last season. And he's younger than Lagamarcini as well. He's got 4-star current ability, 5.5-star potential ability, and I love this trait. He uses long throws to start counterattacks. He cost us, what did he cost us? 450k. He's on a decent wage. 4.5k a week. But he saved a penalty in his first game of pre-season, so that's pretty good. Now, they're the kind of players that you'll know about. Now, as far as everyone else, a lot of those players. Now, I'm aware that this looks like a lot. Like there's a big list here, and a very small list on this side. But a lot of these players are youth players that we snapped up on a free who were kind of getting released by their squad or something, and they're players for the future, really. There's only a few others in there who are actually going to potentially feature in Serie A. So we haven't strengthened that much, but I'll go through some of those key players now. Right, first off, Lorenzo Di Livio from Roma. Now, he was unwanted by Roma. They released him. He's only 23 years old, and he's not a bad player by any stretch of the imagination. He's supposed to be an attacking midfielder, a right-sided attacking midfielder. I'm thinking of retraining him as a central attacking midfielder, which he can kind of do already. Potential ability 4, current ability 3. He's someone who's got some experience of Serie A, I suppose. If you want to at a push, perhaps he's got some experience of Serie A. But I just saw his flair, 16 flair, runs with the ball through centre, moves into channels, shoots from distance, and he doesn't look like a bad player. So I think he could provide good cover for Manolo Portanova, potentially if Portanova gets injured. That's quite an important position for us. So it's good to have some cover in that position. Speaking of cover in that position, we also have Hicham Canis, who is a Moroccan, 23-year-old Moroccan. Again, he's technically, you'd say he's probably a winger. I think, again, he can be retrained as an attacking midfielder, central attacking midfielder. And again, he's got some pretty decent attributes there. 17 flair, 19 determination. I like this guy. I think he could be interesting. So, again, potential replacement for Portanova if Portanova gets injured, or perhaps, we switch it up. And like I said, if these players are not performing, we've got players that we can drop in their place. Now, this guy, Stefano Pellizzari. Now, we didn't have much cover at centre back. We've got our three main centre backs were Jacopo Silva, Davide Bertoncini, and Antonio Pegreffi, and they are all around 30 years old. So I wanted some youngsters to bring in as cover for them who can potentially learn from them as well and be kind of, we're building for the future essentially as well. And this guy is kind of close to being ready to being in the first team already potentially. So I might drop him in for the odd game. But the thing that I really like about this guy is that he's got 18 long throws. And I'm thinking we might get some little bit of Rory Delap action going on. In the same vein, Michael Entube, Cameroonian central defender, we got him from Inter, I think on a free. He's only on £475 a week. He should probably be in the youth team at the moment. But I've put him in the first team because I think, again, it's a bit like the Gambato thing. I think the odd game you throw him in, I think he could probably do pretty well. I mean, look at this. He got a 9 rating, 2 assists, and I think that was his first game for us. So, you never know with these players. So the big one for us really is left back, the big hole in the team really. I mean, if you don't count the hole in the team being the fact that we're not as good as any other team in the division, the position that is not comfortably filled at the moment is left back. Now, left wing back, sorry. So Luigi Di Ignazio has come in from, where did he come from? Bari. I think actually he was out of contract when we picked him up. I think he'd been released or something because we didn't sign him from them. We got him on a free. He's on an insane. He's on a ridiculous wage really for a 21-year-old, isn't he? But he's one for the future, and I think he could do really well. An attacking fullback, attacking wing back. He runs down the ball with the left, which is a great trait for him to have. And I'm throwing him in at the deep end a little bit, and I'm going to start him. And that's just because I've been impressed with him in pre-season. He's had a few decent ratings, and he's slightly better than the other guy that we picked up. Well, he's not slightly better if you look at his ability here, but the other guy that we picked up, Alessio Izzo, has not been performing as well as him in pre-season, and like I said, it's all about your last game. So, there's a chance for him to get back in the team, but at the moment, it's Di Ignazio's to lose. So then there's only really one more player worth talking about. I know from that big list, there's only one more player worth talking about. This is a bit scary, isn't it? We're gonna get destroyed, aren't we? Especially. I mean, we're especially gonna get destroyed because this guy Benjamin Garre, who we picked up, who's an Argentinian attacking midfielder / striker from Man City on loan. amazing youth prospect, going to do amazingly, he's going to be brilliant. He's scored no fucking goals for us so far. He's played in a shitload of preseason games, well, not a shitload of preseason games, he's played in a few preseason games, and he's done nothing. He's been next to useless. So he's probably not going to get in the team to start with. He's going to have to fight for a place in the starting 11. Buso has been on fire. In fact, let's have a quick look at Buso. He's got 4 goals in. It's not really on fire, is it? So how's that affected us financially? Well, we weren't doing very well, if you remember. We've brought in 175k, good one, by getting rid of these few players, one of which I really didn't want to get rid of, Amado Marchiori, but I think it was our director of football who got rid of him. Incidentally, our director of football has been responsible for some of these signings, but kind of, I suppose 90% of them were probably me. And yeah, we've gone over our budget a little bit, 5.25 million, but then I think we maybe had a little bit extra that came in from the money that we made from the outs. So, that all worked out okay. However, our finances are still not looking incredible. You can see when we got promoted, we made a shitload of money, and we got very close to getting back to zero, actually. We were close to 4 million in the red at one point. And getting into Serie A saved us, basically. Since then, I've done a great job of making sure that we spend as much of that money as possible and throw it all down the drain. As you can see here, we're currently spending about just about 11k, roughly over our wage budget. But if we look at the projections, it's not terrible, not compared to last season anyway. So, things are looking up a little bit. At least our transfer budget is going to increase year on year, hopefully, according to that. But yeah, it's not looking terrible. It has been a lot worse, as we can see down here. But that does need to start climbing now again. So the only other thing to do really is to have a quick look at the tactic and see what kind of differences there are from the last tactic that we looked at and that we used last season. Well, there's not much at all, really. This wing-back D'Ignacio has gone to support instead of attack. Both of the central defenders on either side of the libero are both set on cover now because we don't want them to leave too much space behind. Other than that, I don't think much has changed at all. When we were playing Corazza, he was actually playing as pressing forward, but Buso has been working a lot better as a poacher, so we're just playing him as that. And yeah, I can't really think of anything else that's changed that much. Let me just have a look at these instructions. Oh yeah, I did introduce slightly lower tempo, which may seem counterintuitive if we're playing counter-attacking football. But actually, not every attack is a counter-attack. So what I'd like to do is keep hold of the ball a little bit more when we're not counter-attacking. And that slightly lower tempo combined with just slightly shorter passing has allowed us to sort of just pass the ball around a little bit, hold it up, and just kind of not be too eager to try to break through the defence, to take our time a little bit when we can. We still got counter press, defend narrower. Now the reason I've got defend narrower on is simply because we've only got three centre backs and we don't want to pull any of them out of position. I essentially want them to sort of form a wall in front of the goalkeeper and to stop anybody from getting into that space. We'll let people run down the wings and hope that Troiani and D'Ignacio can get back to cover them if needs be. But I'm kind of relying on a couple of these these midfielders to get back a little bit as well. And the libero may bomb off, and then these two are just going to have to stay back. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, my understanding of the way that Football Manager works is probably not the way that it actually works. But that's half the fun of it, I think. Just imagining what you want to happen and trying to make it work. So, the fact that I may misunderstand the mechanics of the game in terms of like the way that it was actually built to work doesn't matter to me, because I'm using my imagination and being creative, and that's what I like. So there you go. So there you have it. Hope you enjoyed that. You probably didn't enjoy it. It was probably a bit of a slog, but now you understand a little bit more about what I'm trying to do and the way that I've strengthened / not strengthened the squad, and we can enjoy Serie A together, because you now have a little bit of an insight into the way that my mind is working while I'm playing and losing these matches, these future matches. So yeah, that's it for this episode. Get ready for the next episode, because that is Spal, and that is the first game of Serie A.